The moment Diem rushed in, clinging to the man she'd spent her whole life searching for, it felt like happiness was finally within reach. But no, her desperate embrace was met with a cold, heartless shove. Toan backed away, looking at her like she was crazy. "Who are you? Let go of me. Why are you doing this?" Those 3 words, "Who are you?" stabbed right through her heart. Diem screamed in despair, trying to hold on to him, but was met only with a terrifying stranger. What happened to Toan's memory is love enough to wake up a sleeping heart. Don't let Diem suffer through this alone. Hit like to give her strength. And remember to subscribe right now, so you don't miss the moment the truth is revealed. Today was a strangely beautiful day. After days of non-stop rain, the sky had suddenly turned high and deep blue, with fluffy white clouds drifting lazily like cotton balls someone had accidentally dropped against the backdrop. Golden sunlight poured down like honey through the leaves, dancing on the rooftops and drying up the puddles left on the road. A gentle breeze carried the earthy scent of damp soil and wildflowers by the roadside. It was the kind of day where you should feel full of joy, eager to welcome new life. But for Toan, that brilliant sunshine outside only made her feel more bitter. She stood by the windowsill, still clutching a cleaning rag, staring out at the sun-drenched little courtyard, but her heart felt heavy as lead. It was already 9 in the morning. The wall clock ticked dryly, a reminder of how time passes without a care. She knew that in the shabby rental room next door, Diem still wasn't up. Or maybe she was. But she had chosen to bury herself in the darkness, sitting curled up in the corner of the room, letting the pain eat away at her. Ever since the day Toan went missing, or rather vanished into thin air after that mysterious accident, Diem was like a plant drained of all its life. She didn't scream or smash things. She was just silent. A terrifying silence, like a tomb she had buried herself in alive. She had gotten so thin, her eyes always dark and sunken, holding a bottomless ocean of sadness. Toan sighed, folded the rag, and started stacking some work clothes into an old wicker basket. She mumbled to herself, "You can't go on like this forever, Diem. He's gone, but the living still have to live. Rent, food, and your health too. If Toan knew about this, would he be at peace?" She pulled herself together and hurried out of her room, crossing the narrow shared courtyard to get to Diem's place. Diem's door was slightly ajar, the rusty hinges screeching as Toan gently pushed it open. Inside, it was pitch black, because the curtains were still drawn tight. The smell of mold, typical of damp rooms that lack sunlight, mixed with a thick, heavy sense of loneliness, hit her immediately. In that stifling space, Diem was sitting curled up in a ball on the narrow single bed. Even in the dim light, Toan could see how gaunt her friend looked. Diem was hugging Toan's old moss-green shirt, the only keepsake left, bearing her face in it to inhale whatever warmth was still there. Toan didn't say a word. She walked over to the window and decisively ripped open the thick curtains. Sunlight flooded the room like a waterfall, illuminating every speck of dust floating in the air and lighting up Diem's pale, bloodless face. Diem squinted, raising her hand to cover her face as if she was afraid of the blinding light. "Get up, Diem," Toan said. Her voice tried to sound tough, but it wavered with sympathy. "The sun is already high. How long are you going to stay in this room growing mold?" Diem slowly lowered her hand, looking up at her friend with lifeless eyes. Her voice was raspy, like dry leaves crunching underfoot. Fan, I don't want to get up. I'm so tired. Just let me sleep a little longer. Maybe I'll dream about him again. Fan slumped down onto the edge of the bed and grabbed Diem's cold, bony hand. She squeezed it tight, trying to transfer some warmth. I know you're tired. I know you miss him so much it's driving you crazy. But Diem, look in the mirror. Do you even look like a person anymore? Are you trying to torture yourself to death? Do you think Toan would want that? If he is alive and comes back, is this the ghost he's supposed to see? At the words, "come back," Diem's thin shoulders shook violently. She choked back a sob. Will he really come back, Fan? Or has he actually forgotten me? How long has it been? Why isn't there any news? People say missing means there's still hope, but this silence, it's killing me day by day. Diem's question hung in the silence unanswered. Fan felt a stinging in her nose. She knew empty, comforting words wouldn't do any good right now. Only harsh reality could pull Diem out of this slump. She took a deep breath, pushing aside her own emotions. We'll figure that out later. Right now, the reality is your wallet is empty. The landlady texted me yesterday, asking about your rent. I signed up to harvest grapefruits at Uncle Two's orchard down the road. It's peak season, and they need people urgently. Come with me. Diem shook her head weakly. I can't do it. You have to. Fan said firmly, standing up and pulling Diem's hand. If you don't work, how can you afford to keep waiting? Do you want to be a walking corpse when you finally find Toan? Or do you want to get kicked out of here and end up on the streets? Come on, get out in the garden, breathe some fresh air, and let the sweat wash away the tears. I've got hats and gloves ready. Change quick, I'll wait outside. With that, Fan walked out, leaving Diem alone in the silence. Diem looked at the shirt in her hand, then at the sun-drenched window. She forced herself up her trembling legs, touching the cold tile floor. She had to live. Yes, she had to stay alive to wait for him, even if that hope was as fragile as a candle in the wind. Meanwhile, about 10 kilometers away from Fan and Diem, in a peaceful village nestled by the gentle Day River, a man was also looking up at that same deep blue sky. It was Toan. But here, no one knew that name. The villagers called him Cow High. It was a simple name given to him by old Grandma Nom ever since that terrifying stormy night when she found him washed up on the riverbank unconscious. He had no ID on him, and a severe blow to the head had wiped his memory clean. His past was a blank sheet of paper, no ink, no traces. Toan stood in the middle of the red brick courtyard, holding a long bamboo pole with a metal basket attached for picking fruit. He was wearing the worn-out brown clothes of a farmer and an old conical hat. The sunlight illuminated his strong face, highlighting a faint long scar on his temple. But it couldn't hide the deep sadness in his eyes. Watching the drifting clouds, a terrifying sense of emptiness washed over him. Every time he saw the sunlight filtering through the leaves, his chest ached for no reason. It felt like he was forgetting something more important than his own life. Late at night in his fitful dreams, he'd see the blurry outline of a woman. She was crying. A gut-wrenching, mournful sound that would jolt him awake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, his heart pounding out of his chest. He'd try to force himself to remember her face, but a splitting headache would hit him like a hammer, and everything would dissolve back into nothingness. "Hey, Cowhide, you done yet?" Grandma Nam's voice called out from the kitchen, snapping him out of his thoughts. "The sun's getting high. Let's get to the orchard before it gets too hot. This old lady can't handle the midday heat." Toan startled, turning to see the old woman bent over carrying a plastic basket. He gave a gentle smile, a kind of genuine smile he rarely had back when he was fighting corporate battles. Here, his life was strangely simple. Wake up early, carry water, chop wood, and tend the garden for the lonely old woman who had taken him in. She treated him like a son, and he saw her as his only family in this world. "Yeah, I'm ready, Grandma Nam." Toan called back, his voice deep and warm. "You go ahead with your hat. I'll grab the basket and the water and follow right behind. Today, I'm going to clear out those green-skinned grapefruits in the corner by the boundary. Heard traders are paying a premium today, so you'll have plenty of money to buy tonic." The old woman grinned with her toothless mouth, scolding him affectionately. "Oh, hush now, you sweet talker. Hurry up before the red ants bite you all over." Toan adjusted the bamboo basket on his shoulder and matched his long strides to the old woman's pace. Grandma Nam's orchard was right next to Uncle Two's larger one, separated only by a sparse hibiscus hedge and a small dry ditch. Fate, like a teasing weaver, was quietly pulling the tangled threads together on a heartbreakingly beautiful sunny day. Two fans' beat-up motorbike sputtered down the red dirt road leading to Uncle Two's orchard. As soon as the engine cut, the strong scent of grapefruit oil hit them. It was pungent and spicy, but incredibly soothing, easing the stifling heat of the approaching noon. Round green grapefruits hung from the branches like giant lanterns promising a bumper crop. Two Fan handed Diem a pair of thick cloth gloves and sharp pruning shears. "Here, put these on. Our job is to cut the low-hanging fruit. Leave the high ones for the guys to climb for. Cut close to the stem, leave a leaf attached so it looks good, and don't scratch the peel or the price drops." Diem nodded slightly. "Yeah, I got it." She slipped on the gloves, the rough canvas against her skin, a reminder of the hard reality. She started working mechanically. Snip, snip. At first she was clumsy, only doing it because Fan forced her. But slowly, the smell of soil and leaves and the warm sun seemed to seep into her cold soul. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Physical exhaustion was sometimes the best painkiller for the mind, helping her temporarily forget the gnawing grief. She wiped the sweat away and looked up at a heavy cluster of fruit. Memories flooded back like a slow-motion movie. Toan used to love grapefruit, but he was clumsy. Every time he peeled one, he'd cut into the fruit. She used to tease him, calling him a spoiled rich kid, then grabbed the knife and meticulously peeled the juicy segments to feed him. Back then, he'd look at her with adoring eyes and say, "When we get old, I'll plant a whole orchard so you can peel them for me every day." That promise was gone, with the wind now leaving her alone in this vast orchard. Tears threatened to spill, but Diem blinked them back and took a deep breath. She whispered to Tufan, "Fan, I suddenly feel really nervous. My heart is racing. It feels like something is about to happen." Tufan, busy cutting a fruit nearby, looked up and laughed it off. You're probably just hungry. We haven't eaten all morning. Let's finish this row, then take a break and eat the rice balls I brought. Hang in there. We're making decent money today." The two women continued working and chatting idly. Just a few meters away, on the other side of the hibiscus hedge, Toan was reaching up with his pole to pick the high fruit. The dry clack-clack of bamboo hitting branches echoed. "Grandma Nam, can you pick up the ones that fell by the roots? Watch out for thorns." Toan called down his deep voice, resonating in the quiet noon air. Grandma Nam bent down to gather the fruit, looking up at her adopted grandson. I know you keep saying that. Just focus on picking. But hey, Hi, why do you keep staring over at the other orchard? Did some girl over there catch your eye?" Toan paused, his eyes narrowing as he looked through the thick hedge. His heart skipped a beat for some reason he couldn't explain. "No." He hesitated. "I just heard someone talking over there. The voice sounds familiar. It's a really sad voice, Grandma. It sounds just like the person in my dreams. You're probably hearing things, or maybe it's heat stroke. Just finish up so we can rest." Grandma Nam waved him off, but Toan couldn't shake the strange feeling. The girl's voice from across the hedge, though faint and carried by the wind, had a tone that shook his subconscious violently. It was like a key, trying to turn in the rusted lock of his memory. On this side of the hedge, Diem bent down to clip a large grapefruit hidden behind the leaves. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept through, knocking the loose hat right off her head. It tumbled across the ground, rolling straight toward the hibiscus hedge. "Oh, my hat!" Diem gasped, chasing after it. The hat rolled through a small gap in the dried-out brush, landing squarely on the dirt in Grandma Nam's garden. Diem froze at the hedge. She crouched down, reaching through the opening to retrieve it. That's when she saw him. Through the gap in the thick green leaves, a man came into view. His back was to her as he reached up high with a bamboo pole to snag a fruit. Diem froze. The whole world seemed to stop spinning. That back, those broad, sturdy shoulders. Even in muddy work clothes, even with his hair grown out and windblown, that specific way he leaned slightly to the right when he stretched. Diem could never forget it. It was the stance of the man she had loved with every fiber of her being. The man she thought was gone forever. Diem's throat tightened, and her heart felt like it was about to pound out of her chest. She wanted to scream to call his name, but the sound was stuck in her throat. She was terrified. Terrified that this was just a hallucination born from her grief. Terrified that if she blinked, he would vanish like a soap bubble. Her hand shook as she gripped a dry branch, thorns digging into her skin until it bled, but she felt no pain. She just stared, eyes wide, fixed on his back. "Toan," she whispered, her voice broken so quiet that only she could hear it, as if connected by an invisible thread on the other side of the hedge. Toan suddenly shuddered. He could physically feel a gaze boring into his back, a gaze with the weight of the world behind it. A chillingly familiar sensation sent goosebumps rippling over his skin. He slowly lowered the pole, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the bamboo. He took a deep breath and slowly turned toward the hedge where the leaves were rustling. The midday sun beat down on the garden, but in the space between their gazes, time seemed to stand still. The whole world held its breath, waiting for a moment of destiny. The sun began to dip west, dyeing the sky in the brilliant but melancholic red of dusk. The harvest was finally over as the last salty drops of sweat rolled down their cheeks. Toan stretched his joints, cracking after hours of climbing and hauling. He wiped his forehead and accepted the meager wad of cash from the trader. It wasn't much, but to him, it was blood and sweat, a simple joy. Because tonight he could buy Grandma Nom a carton of milk and some meat to improve their humble dinner. He said goodbye to Grandma Nom, telling her to rest while he walked to the village entrance to buy supplies and come back for her later. Toan walked along the familiar red dirt road. On either side, reeds swayed in the evening breeze, rustling like they were whispering old stories. His shadow stretched long and lonely on the road. His head started to throb again. This pain usually came when he overworked or the weather changed. But today, it was strange. It brought a restless, nauseous feeling, like an invisible hand squeezing his chest. The image of the girl with the sad voice from across the hedge kept swirling in his mind, refusing to leave. At the same time, at the other orchard gate, Toan and Diem had just finished weighing and selling their harvest. Diem held her wages, her hands trembling, not from fatigue, but from emotion. It had been so long since she held money earned by her own hands. But deep down, her mind was still back at the hibiscus hedge. That back, was it really him? Or just a mirage created by her longing? Hop on Diem, let's go. We're treating ourselves to a good meal tonight. Toan's urging pulled Diem back to reality. Diem climbed onto the back of the bike, her eyes still looking back toward Grandma Nom's orchard, but seeing only silent trees under the red sunset. The engine roared, and the old motorbike lurched forward, bouncing along the rocky village road. The evening wind whipped Diem's sweaty matted hair. She closed her eyes, inhaling the scent of the fields, trying to push away the image of that stranger who felt so painfully familiar. You're losing it, Diem, she told herself. Toan has been missing for so long. How could you randomly run into him here? You're just torturing yourself. The bike went a short distance before reaching a sharp curve where the narrow dirt road ran along a cool green canal. Suddenly, in the distance, a figure walking in the opposite direction came into view. A tall man in worn brown clothes, fanning himself with a conical hat. He was walking with his head down his steps, slow and a bit weary. Diem's heart skipped a beat. The distance closed fast. 50 meters. 30. 10. As the motorbike swept past him, the man looked up at the road. Their eyes locked for a split second. It was brief, but it felt like an eternity. Those eyes, that face, the faint scar on his temple. There was no mistaking it. Even though he was thinner, darker, and dressed like a rough farmer, that aura, that specific gaze, it was etched into Diem's very bones. Stop, Fan! Stop the bike right now! Diem screamed, her voice cracking with hysteria. Toan slammed on the brakes in panic. The bike skidded across the gravel, screeching to a halt. Before it even fully stopped, Diem jumped off, nearly face-planting into the dirt. Diem, what the hell are you doing? That's dangerous! Toan yelled, terrified, but Diem didn't hear a thing. All she could hear was the rushing wind and her heart pounding against her ribs like it wanted to break free. She turned to look at the man who was standing frozen behind them, startled by the screeching tires. "Toan." She whispered his name, and then she bolted. She stumbled at first, then ran faster and faster. She ran like a mad woman, terrified that if she slowed down for even a second, he'd vanish into thin air. Hot tears blurred her vision. Toan was walking along when he heard the scream, then saw a strange woman jump off a bike and charge at him like a hurricane. He froze, his eyes wide with shock and fear. This woman was disheveled, her face streaked with dirt, crying as she ran, shouting a name that wasn't cow-high. Toan. The desperate cry ripped through the quiet air. Before Toan could react, Diem slammed into him. The impact sent Toan stumbling backward a few steps. Diem's thin arms locked around his waist, her face buried in his chest, where his heart was racing in panic. She held him with the desperation of months of bottled-up grief. She squeezed so hard, her fingernails dug into him through his coarse shirt. "It's you. I found you." Diem sobbed, her composure shattering like a broken dam. All the strength she had faked for so long collapsed. "Don't go anywhere. Please, don't leave me again." Toan froze. The smell of sweat mixed with grapefruit oil from this woman filled his nose. It felt terrifyingly familiar, yet strange. A jolt of electricity shot down his spine, sparking dormant nerves in his brain and triggering a blinding headache. "Ah!" Toan groaned, clutching his head. His survival instinct kicked in. In his blank memory, this woman didn't exist. He didn't know who she was. This sudden attack terrified him. "What are you doing? Get off me!" Toan shouted, his voice cracking with fear. He struggled to pry her iron grip off his body, but Diem wouldn't let go. She held on tighter, as if letting go meant losing him forever. She looked up, tears soaking his shirt, her red eyes begging him. "What's wrong, Toan? It's me, Diem." "You're too, Diem. Look at me. Don't you recognize me?" Toan looked into those eyes. They held a universe of pain. But to him right now, they just looked like the eyes of a lunatic. His headache was splitting, and blurry images flashed through his mind like broken glass, sharp but unrecognizable. "I don't know you. You've got the wrong person." Toan roared, using all his strength to shove her away. The shove was so hard, Diem stumbled and collapsed onto the gravel. Her hands were scraped and bleeding, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the knife twisting in her heart. He pushed her. The man who used to treat her like a treasure, who promised to protect her forever, was now looking at her with fear and disgust, like she was a total stranger. What are you saying?" Diem stammered, trembling as tears continued to fall. "You don't know me. Have you really forgotten me, Toan?" Toan backed away, panting heavily, still clutching his pounding head, his eyes wild with panic. "I'm not. Toan, I'm high. You're crazy. Stay away from me." Diem couldn't accept that brutal reality. She forced herself up, ignoring her bleeding hands, and lunged toward him again, grabbing his arm. "No. You are Toan. You're my husband." She screamed, her wail piercing the sunset. "Do you have any idea how much I've suffered? Do you have any idea how hard I've looked for you? Every single day without you has been a living hell. I miss you so much, I'm losing my mind. Just look at me. Toan, really look at me." She gripped his hand and pressed it against her cheek, her voice choking up. This hand, this warmth. How could I be wrong? You promised you'd never let go of me. Why are you driving me away now? Why have you forgotten me? Every word, every syllable felt like a needle-piercing Toan's brain. To Diem. The name rang in his head like a distant temple bell. His heart ached. An invisible guilt squeezed his chest. Why did seeing her cry feel like someone was tearing him apart? Why did he have the urge to reach out and wipe away this stranger's tears? But the fear of his blank past and the confusion about who he really was took over. He was terrified of the truth, terrified of the painful memories this girl was dragging up. He wanted to run. He wanted to go back to being carefree, cow-high in Grandma Nam's orchard. "Let go," I said, "let go!" Toan screamed in desperation. He struggled harder. This time, he swung his arm violently, throwing Diem's clinging hand off his body. "Stop bothering me. I don't know who you are. Get lost." The words, "get lost," were harsh, cruel, and cold. Diem froze. She stood rooted to the spot, her hand reaching into empty air, staring in shock as the man she loved looked at her with pure horror. Toan saw the light go out in her eyes. He felt like he had just committed a terrible crime. But his head felt like it was about to explode, cutting off any ability to think. He turned and ran. He ran away, running from this strange woman, running from the chaotic feelings bubbling up inside, running from a past that was threatening to swallow him whole. Huyen sipone ahinsa stam. Toan, don't go. Diem screamed, trying to chase him, but her legs gave out. She collapsed in the middle of the road, pounding her chest with both hands, sobbing in agonizing bursts. Why are you doing this to me? Oh God. Toan finally caught up. Seeing the scene, she rushed to hug her best friend, who was limp as a wilted leaf. Diem. Calm down. Diem. Fan. Diem clutched Toan's shoulder, her nails digging in painfully, tears and road dust streaking her face. It's him. It really is him. But he chased me away. He doesn't remember me. He ran away, Fan. Diem buried her face in Toan's shoulder, crying like an abandoned child. Her mournful wails echoed down the empty country road. Toan had disappeared behind the old bamboo grove, but the pain he left behind was real cruel and sharp as a knife, cutting into the hearts of those left behind. Sunset faded completely. Darkness swooped down, swallowing the two small women on the vast road, just as it was swallowing Diem's broken heart. A fated reunion, but the start of a tragedy 10 times more painful than their separation. Toan ran for his life until his legs couldn't take another step. He collapsed by the roots of an ancient banyan tree at the village entrance, his breath wheezing like a blacksmith's bellows. Sweat poured off him, his spine cold, but that chill was nothing compared to the freezing fear spreading through his mind. The image of that girl wouldn't leave him alone. Red eyes, heart-wrenching screams. "You are Toan, you're my husband." Toan. Who is Toan? He clutched his head, mumbling in excruciating pain. Every time he tried to dig into that name, a black wall slammed down in his brain, accompanied by pain, like thousands of needles stabbing his nervous system. It wasn't just forgetting. It felt like an order, a self-destruct mechanism installed to stop him from remembering. He put his head between his knees, helpless against himself, completely unaware that not far away, behind a thick bamboo thicket, a luxurious black car was parked silently, totally out of place in this poor countryside setting. The window rolled down halfway. A man in a black suit and sunglasses lowered a pair of high-tech binoculars. He smirked a cold, cruel smile. He pulled out a phone and dialed a short number. The other end picked up immediately silence, save for the steady breathing of someone waiting for a report. "Sir." The man's voice was even and emotionless. "Subject number 9 is still stable. He just encountered the biggest obstacle. His wife." A short silence. Then a raspy, powerful voice from the other end spoke. What was the result? Did it trigger his memory? Not at all. The man glanced at Toan shivering under the tree. He panicked and ran. The cleanse protocol, therapy combined with the H24 serum Dr. Tran injected into his brain 6 months ago is still working perfectly. He's wiped clean. His memory of himself, his family, and most importantly, the teen long group's black ledger. It's all been locked away permanently in a drawer he'll never find the key to. Excellent. The voice on the other end chuckled darkly. I told you death is too easy an escape for a traitor. Letting him live, but living like a stray dog with no past and no future, that is the cruelest punishment. He was a financial genius, and now he's just a dim-witted farmer named Hai. Let him rot in that maggot-like existence. But sir, the man hesitated, squinting toward the red dirt road where Diem and Toan were still holding each other and crying. His wife seems very persistent. If she keeps clinging to him, I'm worried the constant emotional impact might break the memory seal. Love sometimes creates variables that science can't explain. Do we need to take her out? Silence stretched on the other end of the line for a long time. The wind whistling through the cracked car window sounded eerie. No rush. If he dies or vanishes again, the police will reopen the car crash case from 6 months ago. Leave her there. Let her watch her husband standing right in front of her, looking at her like she's a total stranger. That suffering will kill her slowly. However, keep them under 24/7 surveillance. If Toan shows any sign of remembering the safe combination or remembering that fateful night, send them both to their graves to reunite. Understood, sir. The call ended. The tinted black window rolled up slowly, hiding the cold face of the unseen killer. The car engine purred to life, reversing and disappearing into the shadows of the vast rubber plantation, leaving a terrifying secret in its wake. Back at the village entrance, Toan's headache slowly subsided, replaced by a numbness that felt like a void. He looked up, then down at the river, drifting lazily before him. The pale crescent moon cast his reflection on the water. He stared at his own reflection. But strangely, in a moment of hallucination, the face in the water wasn't his current rugged, weathered face. It was the face of a sharp, elegant man in a luxury suit tied to a chair in a dark room. In front of him was a doctor holding a syringe filled with a terrifying green liquid. Don't try to remember Mr. Toan. Forgetting is bliss. The voice echoed in his head clear as day. Toan startled and fell backward. The hallucination vanished, and the river surface returned to its quiet calm. He gasped for air, cold sweat pouring down his face. Was that a memory or a nightmare? Who did this to him? Why did he feel like he had been imprisoned, tortured, and forced to forget something incredibly important? A bone-chilling wind blew past, sweeping up dry leaves that rustled like footsteps stalking him in the dark. Toan shivered. He had a gut feeling that meeting the girl named Diem today wasn't an accident. It was the starting gun signaling that the peaceful days of Cow High were over. Darkness was slowly swallowing him. And somewhere in the night, faceless enemies were sharpening their knives, waiting for the moment his memory awakened to deliver the final killing blow. The truth behind the accident, the secret of the Black Ledger, and the brutal power that had stolen his soul. It was all still shrouded in mystery, waiting to be dragged into the light. Will two Diem's fierce love be strong enough to defeat the oblivion poison? Or will they both be crushed under the wheels of conspiracy and power? The answer remains open, drifting in the unpredictable current of life.